first question is from Preacherman Joe. How do you fix back issues at work from sitting all day?
Back issues from work, from sitting all day. This was a majority of our clients, right?
Yeah.
Because we all worked in Silicon Valley, and so
it adds up.
This was all
in that fixed position for so long.
I think the biggest misconception around this is thinking that it's like something directly related to the back, and more often than not, it's more like hip and ab stuff related.
Correct, 100%.
And that was like, I mean, I remember even being a trainer and dealing with low back pain and thinking that, oh man, I just, genetically our families all have bad backs, have a bad back or whatever, and not realizing how much of that had to do with weak hips and a weak core that was really contributing to the low back pain.
The most common areas of tension in the back for people who work at desk jobs are low back, and then that upper kind of neck area or back area where you start to get tension in the back of the head or the neck. And yes, it's because you're sitting in a position for a long period of time. And what happens is, the muscles of the body have to work together. And when some muscles are too weak, what ends up happening is your body just has other muscles do more work to compensate. And in this case, if your core is weak because it's not really being activated, well, you have hip flexors like the psoas muscle that attaches at the low spine. That's going to be pulling a little more. It's going to cause low back pain. You may have some weakness in the hips, like Adam was saying. That's going to cause some low back issues. You may have weakness in the mid back. So your upper back muscles, the levator scapulae or trapezius muscles, are going to be tighter to try to stabilize the shoulders. So what you want to do is you want to strengthen those muscles that are weak. So strengthening your core is important. Working on hip mobility and strength is very important. And mid back exercises are important. But I will say this, I'm going to back up because those are all. Now, it's important to do strength training regardless, okay? But I think if we look at the root issue is that you're sitting all day. And so it's actually, and I've had a lot of clients with success with having standing desks, where rather than sitting all day, they stand while they do their work, or they sit on something that requires a little bit more.
Or they get up and more frequently.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not saying don't strength train, like just do that. But rather than having to try to always constantly Band-Aid or compensate or work on areas that need strengthening because you're doing something all the time, well, you change what you do a little bit. Like stability ball for a chair tends to help this problem, and so does standing. And like I said, those two things I've had people work on made a big difference. And who was one of us? Was it you, Adam, that tried to create a chair?
Yeah.
At one point, yeah, for that very thing, right?
Yeah. To keep them. It had the shaft in the chair had a 15-degree play in all directions, so you could never sit and slouch, or else it would tip over. So it kind of forced you. And then the seat was actually at like a 30-degree angle, so you weren't exactly at a 90-degree angle, or I don't know what that is, a 45-degree angle. I should say.
That actually, like Dr. Ed Thomas had added like a wedge to a lot of students' chairs for that specific reason too, is like, not having that 90-degree fixed and having it like at least a bit more lengthened tended to avoid a lot of those pains.
Do you know that they have chairs? And it's funny because when I saw it, I thought what we would think as trainers, like, oh, that's good for some core activation. But they have chairs for kids with ADD in classrooms where the bottom of them,
it's like almost shocks them every now and then.
No, it's just because I annoy you.
Yeah.
They have the bottom of it looks like a half circle, so it kind of rolls around, and so the kids will sit and because they need that kind of stimuli. But I'm like, that would be a good office chair.
Yeah,
an inexpensive way to get someone.
They've made ones too that like where a stability ball fits in them now.
Yeah,
and, I mean, I was all into that when we first were trying to do it. We just had horrible timing when we created it right after the big crash. And then going to big companies like Deloitte and Touche and trying to convince them to replace their 500 office chairs with one that was 5 times more expensive than the one that they already currently had. They're like, yeah, that's cool. We'll pass. So
I'm gonna give some specific exercises. So
cool.
I like planks, but planks done a specific way. I actually did a video.
Active planks.
Yeah, active planks or planks with
like the
tailbone tuck to activate the core. And I did videos on this a while ago. So we'll link those in the show notes. And then rows, cable rows, machine rows are good because they're easier for people with weak mid backs to activate versus a barbell row, which you got to have a little bit more control and strength to do, and really focusing on pulling the shoulder blades back and down. Those two, movements generally are pretty good prescriptions for people.
I had some generic advice along those lines. I was going to go the active plank route. So I love that. I love row, which I was going to say also. And then good goals, get good at the deadlift, get great at the 90-90s, and work towards having a good deep squat. I think those would be really good goals for somebody who struggles with that. I can't stress enough, like, this was something that I was riddled with low back pain, chronic back pain, and for even my career as a trainer. And it wasn't until I got really good at my 90-90s and ankle mobility to where I could get into a really good deep squat, and just getting good at and getting connected to that internal rotation with the 90-90s on my hips, and then also doing a deep squat kind of strengthens all of that, right? So once you get to a place where you can do a good deep squat, now I find I don't have to do any of those movements anymore. I don't have to do any of that stuff. All I have to do is squat deep once a week, and that strengthens that entire hip complex so well that I've completely eliminated any low back pain I used to have.